Assalamu alaikum, hey, and welcome to the Muslim Life Coach Institute podcast. This is Abdul Shahid, master coach, trainer, and therapist, and this is where I help you to coach yourself and your clients on how to overcome anxiety, fear, and all of the emotional baggage that keeps so many of us stuck in our minds, our lives, and our relationships. Assalamu alaikum, hey guys, welcome back to this week's episode of the podcast. I've got actually a special guest here today with me to share her experience. She's had an amazing journey with the science of the Nafs, going through the process of understanding herself, her connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and really helping her to get over many of the challenges that you probably face and struggle with at some point in your life, if not now. And so I think it's going to be very useful to hear what Sister Aliyah's experience has been. So, Aliyah, welcome to the podcast, and it's Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Wa alaikum salam.
How are you doing?
Thank you. Alhamdulillah, really good. Thank you.
So tell me. I just want to I know you've got loads of things you want to talk about, but here's the thing. You're a bit of a colourful character, and alhamdulillah, you were that when we first had our initial conversation, and you've proven to be that ever since. I really want to share with the listener what experience you've had going through this journey of yours, because it's your own life journey. Like, sure, I mean, you've come to understand the science of the Nafs. Like, it's a spiritual psychology model. For those of you that are listening to this as a first time, if you've not heard me talk about this before, the science of the Nafs is a spiritual psychology model. It is basically, based upon the Quran and Sunnah. It's about understanding your spirituality, your psychology, and your physiology. And Aliyah is actually a perfect example of someone who's has really encompassed all three levels. So I just wanted to ask you, before you start sharing your stories, what is it, what would you say has become the number one thing or the number one impact that you've seen in your life of late? I'm not talking about right at the beginning, because we'll talk about the beginning, but since you've been in this journey for now over a year now, how has that impacted your life?
Well, firstly, I'm going to say thank you again. I don't know why, but I alhamdulillah, it's completely, subhanallah, just everything's changed. My biggest impact has got to be the peace, the calm, the transformation in my understanding. I think has got to be, of understanding myself, has got to be one of the biggest impacts that I've had, and the awareness, self-awareness. And that was really important.
But hold on. Look, when someone hears that, oh, my understanding has changed, what they think, and I'm just speaking for the listener here, right? What they could be thinking is, well, I could read a book and I get an understanding. I could go do a course on psychology or Islamic studies and I get an understanding. What do you mean by understanding? What do you mean? Because is it just like you've had some rational thinking or some some insights, or what is it that you talk about when you say that everything has changed? Because understanding to a lot of us isn't everything.
Oh, it was everything for me, because I think becoming aware of certain things that, there were places I wanted to be in life. I wanted to reach certain places, and I couldn't understand parts of why certain things would happen, why I would do certain things. What was it really deep within? Coming back to it, fear was one of my biggest obstacles. And what I realized was, once I was aware of it and aware of the lies that I told myself, and actually could see what it was that was actually going on within me, the understanding allowed me to be more compassionate to myself and actually naturally change the way that I responded or approached certain things that I needed to do in my life. And that was massive for me. The awareness and the understanding of what I wanted to achieve and how I could achieve it and what was stopping me achieving it. That was a big transition for me.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, so I want to get into the meat of this. Like going right back to the beginning, I recall, we in the initial stages. See, we can laugh about it now, but at that time, see, the thing is, at that time, you and I, we had many conversations and coaching calls, and in with that journey at the time, what seemed like you were having a lot of panic and emotional highs and lows, like panic attacks and anxiety, and you were always telling me that this anxiety, like I can't breathe because of it. Like what was that all about? Where were you when you first came into this journey?
Oh my gosh, where was I? I was somewhere I never want to return to, but I was in a place of constant, self-awareness in a really negative place from where I am now. I was aware, I was just always scared, always having panic attacks, I wasn't managing. I wasn't managing my fears, my insecurities. I had a lot of stuff that was going on in my life at that point, and a lot of doubts, I'd say. I think that's the most important thing, a lot of doubts. And I had no direction. I didn't know where I was going. And I knew that I knew the right way. I knew I wanted to go. I knew where I wanted to be, but I just didn't know how to get there. And I was just confused. I think it's the right word. Confused, lost.
So look, Aliyah, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so why is that the case? Why were you in that place? You've worked for some good organizations. You've done a lot of public services. You've been doing a lot of different things, working with the community, and you've been like, you're a Reva, like a convert, to someone that came into Islam, and you've been on this journey for many years, it seems, and you've studied psychology, you've studied various Islamic studies courses, and you've been through the mill. So why were you in that place? Why do you think? What did it take to make that shift?
I think for me, I personally, I think there was a fear of commitment. I think, to get to the place I was at, like I said, like you've said, I was in quite a good place up until a certain event happened in my life. And from that space, it was just a slow decline. What I feel, it just spiraled. I think that's the right way to put it. I couldn't understand and process what was happening. And I realized in that moment, at that point, I think I went through a crisis of faith, I would call it. I'd say that as a Reva. And I felt so ashamed of that crisis. And everyone has to go for it. It's in order to transcend parts of yourself. You realize that something, you need more, you want more, but you don't know how to achieve that. So for me, it was such a multitude of things that had happened that collectively just resulted in a manifestation of anxiety and panic and fear of stepping out. And like I say, I think commitment is the biggest is the word for me. I was scared of failure. I was scared that I'd failed. I felt like I'd failed, and I couldn't understand how I was going to grow from this. It was very nice being, a Reva. I loved that, that safety net of it. And then suddenly the real crux of life started to happen. The reality, I would call it. And reality, it was actually, I don't mind saying it was triggered by a death. And I think as a Reva, it's really difficult to process the death of someone who's not, who wasn't a Muslim. And so from there, it just shows you how this this awareness kicked in of wanting more, wanting to know more. And, you know, Allah is the best of planners. That's all I can say. I definitely feel like everything that's happened led me to this place where I didn't even know what the root was, but through this understanding and this learning, I was able to really grasp the realities of what I wanted, and the panics, the anxiety, the overthinking, the fears, as I said, all of those things were just symptoms of something that was much more crucial, much more of a need and a desire to know more and to know myself and know my Lord, so to speak, and really transcend all the symptoms in order to become what I've wanted to be. You know, what I've always imagined is myself, the best version of myself to be. And I'm still on the journey, you know, alhamdulillah, I'm still on it.
Alhamdulillah.
And it's been really fruitful. It's been high, it's been low, you know, and it's been passionate, it's been nurturing.
You know, for those of you listening, Ali has been through a bit of a journey. You can tell, like there's been a lot of fear, panic, anxiety, and there's a lot of trauma that she had to deal with. Because when you're dealing with, like, let's be frank, when you're dealing with death of a loved one, and you don't know how to manage it, you don't know, what this means for you, and it becomes, we almost traumatize ourselves not knowing what's happening. And I think what I want you listeners to understand is that, the journey she's been through, many of us go through this, and we just, and really, like, it's the direction, knowing what to do and how to do it, that is probably the most important thing there is. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends us revelation, because he's not going to send us on to this place, dunya, and leave us here without, guidance. Because, as when you get lost, you really do need some safety, and you really do need something to grab a hold of to basically steer you in the right direction. And so Aliyah, with yourself, like I get obviously you went through this major upheaval in your life, a lot of it. And I remember in the early days you used to talk a lot about trauma and the fact that you've been traumatized, and and it was it was difficult, and I could see that with you. I could see that you were having a difficult time trying to get through it. But the thing is, like, at some point there were certain points where you, like, because people were telling you that you were a different person, that people that knew you for years were telling you that all of a sudden they're seeing a different person.
I
like,
couldn't see
why
it.
Do you
that
think?
was the funny thing, Abdul Shahid. I couldn't see what they were talking about. But many people have said, like, you've undergone such a transformation. You've changed just the calmness, the things that the sky isn't falling. That was kind of my approach. I'll be very honest. I didn't. I was very, like I said, I could multitask. I was doing a lot of things within the community. I was doing everything, but I always felt like I was in survival mode. I wasn't thriving. I was doing everything, but it was, as I said, surviving, doing the work, and there was no. It was a necessity. Now, the necessity has taken on a different thing, and it's something I step into. I enjoy it. I love what I do. And I embrace everything. And the understanding, the perceptions that I had before, they've completely transformed my perception of everything, even death. I am so thankful for I couldn't imagine that I'd be this. And people even say to me, I couldn't, like, who are you kind of thing. And I'm like, I'm so excited. I'm finding out every day. I'm discovering different parts. And the funny thing is, I think as we go through this journey of life, one of the things that we always recognize first and foremost is, people will always tell you the good about you. But the habits that actually you need to change, that Surah Rad ayah comes to mind, the condition within yourself in order to be this. It was so subtle. And I think I've mentioned this a few times. Al-Latif. I think of Al-Latif a lot when I think of what has happened in this transformation I've gone through. So
okay, hold on. Before you actually talk about the subtleties, because I get what you're talking about, because you've mentioned this to me before, but I want to contextualize it for the listener. I want them to understand. As we went through this journey, obviously there's many of us going through the journey together, and what we found, and what you always find, is that you want instant change. Everyone wants instant change. They're looking for, it's the microwave lifestyle, right? And we want instant change. We want instant food. We want instant results. And in that moment, especially if you're having a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, a lot of panic attacks, when you're having this sort of experience, like, very often you're so wrapped up and taken away by your emotions, you actually don't see the changes happening. And this is what she's about to talk about. So Aliyah, tell us, what are you talking about when you're talking subtleties?
My approach to when I was faced with a panic attack, for example, one of the biggest things is, and it's the worst thing, because you can't breathe. Like you said, I would always say, can't breathe when I have a panic attack. Could not breathe, could not think. Whatever I was thinking, I was caught up in it. And from what I was learning, and I remember the moment it happened, I think you've been teaching this, and I remember I had the first day without any panic attacks, and I was like, almost trying to figure out what it was why I wasn't having these panic attacks, why I didn't have a panic attack that day. And I remember speaking to you about it. I was like, I haven't had a panic attack. I don't know what's happened. And I realized that just that second lesson that hadn't a second lesson that we'd had literally fallen into place, and an understanding, the subtle understanding of it that seems so complicated, wasn't complicated obviously, but in the moments of my panic attacks you could not think of it, and suddenly it just made perfect sense, and that was the transformation.
Okay, so hold on, you know what you're about to say. Hold on, I want to backtrack a little bit, because the thing is, I want the listener to understand. In fact, I'm going to recall what you probably don't recall. As you went through that journey, that's that moment of realization when you realize, oh, actually, I'm not having this anymore. What's going on? Right now, that it happened for you on that day, but the reality is, it happened way before that, because before that, as you're going through the lessening the degree of fear and anxiety, and because it doesn't just happen overnight. That's the truth. Look, I teach this stuff, and I coach people through their fear and panic and anxiety and all this stuff. And I do this. I've done it with so many people, and I can tell you, like, what happens is that what you experienced that day was that you realized, oh, like, everything's changed. That's the realization. Everything's changed, right? But the actual not having, because there's a lead up to it. And the lead up to it is that it's not just about your understanding, like your understanding, but it's the application. You see, the reason I wanted to make a point of this, because most people think that if I just understand it will solve everything. No, it won't solve everything. Like, tell me about that, because like many a times, because you came from a different, you've studied psychology from different angles, and when you've studied it, you've come in thinking, oh, it's you just got to change the way you feel. But I'm saying, no, you can't just change the way you feel.
The intention, the awareness, and then the awareness and the recognition, and the actions that I took were something that kind of believing what I was being taught, understanding the truth of it, because it made sense. This is the thing, it made complete and utter sense. So there was no denying this. It was like, as you say, revelation. There was no doubt in what I was learning. So I knew it to be true. Then there was this moment of trusting the process, trusting the action that I needed to take, and trusting that this was going to have the results. The results would come. And as you said, it didn't happen overnight. It was, sometimes I'd catch myself after, in the process. And the moment I realized that it worked, you know, I don't actually have panic attacks anymore, which is massive for me.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
So look, you know, like, you know what you're saying there, because, you know, the thing is, here's the thing, you know, life, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, you know, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنْ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. Right? Allah says that you're gonna have an experience. You're gonna have different experiences. You're gonna be tried with loss of this, and, you know, a reduction in this, and you're gonna have some fear, and you're gonna have some hunger. You're gonna experience different experiences in life. This is not a pre-warning of a miserable life. It's a pre-warning that you're actually gonna have, you know, a plethora of experiences in life. And as you go through that, the one who's going to do well is right at the end, Bashir as-Sabirin, the one who
patience with good. And it was a lot of patience. So I developed, like I said, new habits, new skills. Patience was that. There was no patience. I had no patience at all. No patience in myself, no patience with Allah, no patience with other people. And I think what I was learning about the action that I needed to take through the learning of the applications of the sciences of Nafs, in that process, there was no patience. I remember, I just, there were days where I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to do it, but I'm not seeing the changes. I'm not, and it was so, like you said, subtle. As I said, subtle. But as I kept going, I realized that things were changing. Things were just starting to fall off. Behaviors, habits, perceptions. I was watching, I would say, Allah changing the condition outside of me. That's how I'd see it. I was doing the action. I was taking the actions, and I was watching before my eyes. I saw it first with other people's perception of me changing. And then I was seeing my own perception of me and my situations and the circumstances and the approaches, the way that I would interact, the way that I would respond. Those were the results. But the actions, they were so, I'll be honest, I am not someone who likes to take action. I'm kind of like I said, no patience. But the patience, because I was seeing the fruits of the understanding of the applications, the implications even. I was seeing all of that, and I was seeing the results, and that just gave me this thirst to keep going, to the point that, subhanAllah, sometimes I look at myself, I'm like, who are you, kind of thing. I'm like, you know, I absolutely 100%. And I love that every day there are new things that I face, new things I face, and, you know, overcoming that into using the application.
You know what you're saying there about new things and life. What the reality is, like, we all know that life doesn't stop because you solved a problem. Life just continues, and we just continue to experience like a whole bunch of different experiences. But one of the most powerful things, is growth, right? Now, here's the thing about growth. You sent me a message the other day saying how you can't believe that you're just not the same person anymore that you were just 1 year ago.
Yeah.
Like, why is that the case? Why is it that you're so shocked at you're this different person a year later?
You know, I think this is it's quite a vulnerable thing to say, but I'm just going to say it because I think a lot of people actually experience this. We become stagnant in who we are. It's one of the things that happens. We like who we are, and we feel safe in the way that we were. Yeah. So I think taking the idea of growing from something that has become habitual, and other people accept you with all your good and your bad. But you deep down, you know that there is a growth. There is something that needs to take place. And growth, we've always been told, growth is painful. Growth is this, growth is that. I'll be honest with you, growth has been probably one of the most exciting journeys I've been on with you. I think it's been really exciting. I've really enjoyed it. When I say that I look back at the girl I was, I realized I never actually liked, not that I didn't like it, but I I never felt like, I said, I was growing. I was used to being a certain way. I had this perception. People had this perception. I was comfortable with that, and I flowed.
Aliyah, I don't know what you're talking about, because look, I see the change. Like
Yeah.
I've watched the change all along. And in fact, many a times you would say to me, like, I don't see it. I don't see it. And I'd say, listen, I see it. Don't worry about it.
Abdul Shahid. I'd be lying if I said that I did. Sometimes I can't see it, and it's quite easy, to be honest with you. It's very easy to get caught up in that old thing, that old way of being.
Well, look, the interesting thing about what you just said is that like we get stuck in the old way of being. We get stuck in the way, and when we experience something new and we don't like the comfort or the discomfort of it, we want to go back to the old way, even though we never liked the old way. And that's such an important thing to understand. It changes everything if you can just change your default and not switching back to old behaviors, old patterns, old ways of thinking and behaving, because that behavior, it creates the results of our lives. So, when you get stuck in those old behaviors, you just have to step out. But the thing is, look, Revelation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us through Revelation. The science of the nafs, it is based upon the Quran and Sunnah. That means that whenever we get stuck in something, there's always a way out, because there is no problem with no solution.
Oh,
like and listen, death is not a problem. Right? I know when people think about death. Go on, tell me what are you saying about that?
You know what? I'll be honest with you. I think the hardest thing, like I said to you, was coming to terms with my dad's death. What I saw, how I found it, all of the story that goes with that. One of the most beautiful things that I think I can look at, I actually not excited for death, because that'd be a bit, but I see death now. My relationship with Allah is on I would say it's even better, because as a reader, the innocence, the beauty of this journey with Allah has been beautiful. But that was really the test for me. It was a massive test. It completely threw me. And it kind of led on to a load of other implications in my life. The mercy, the understanding, knowing who Allah is, knowing who I am, has been one of the most exciting, most powerful transformations in every approach that I have to my life. I'll be honest with you. And I know, like you said, there is no problem, nothing. I falter, I get back up, but there is no place, and to be honest with you, I wouldn't change what's happened to me. I wouldn't change this process. I was thinking about this yesterday. The process I've been through in the last 4 years, and like you said, it's been a tough 4 years until I found you last year. I feel like I was, I was going up, and then, I'd come back down. This has been an even keel for the last year of transition, patience, resilience, learning, growth, and the way I see it, again, the way I see Abdul Shahid, the way I see now. And my most exciting part is I actually feel like I belong, like I belong to Allah. That's the most powerful insight that I've had. I belong to Allah, and I wouldn't, and one of the most, one of my favorite ayahs, and I'm really excited about this process, because I feel like I'm in the process. This is the one dua I've always made. Oh Allah. And I always say to my Lord, when you love me, I will see. That's the beauty of this. But I see now with clarity one of the most important elements that was lacking because of this trial, that my Lord has enabled me to see things from different. This is the condition outside of me that is changing. My relationships, my ibadah, my thirst again for knowledge and understanding, my coaching, the way that I wanting for others what I have gained. I see that in my coaching, and I'm coaching other people.
Okay, so here's the thing. Like, I just want to make a clarification very quickly for the listener. So when Aliyah talks about because what's foundational look, the science of the nafs is a Quran and Sunnah based spiritual psychology model. Like, what's foundational is how we understand Allah, how we perceive Allah. And perceiving Allah is not about you seeing Allah with your naked eye, but it's about how you think about Allah. And we know that from the Hadith Qudsi, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Ana 'inda dhanni abdi bi," I am for my servant that which they expect of me. And one of the biggest problems that most of us have is that we go through life expecting the worst. We go through life expecting that we're not.
The worst, yeah.
So look, you're not alone. That's the truth. The reason that look, even myself, coming to this, it's taken me more than 20 years in this journey of understanding the deen, understanding psychology through the deen, like really truly understanding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and my connection with Allah. And that was all about understanding who Allah is. And that's the point of revelation. Like, revelation came to teach us who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is and our relationship with Allah. And when you get that in alignment, everything changes, because no longer everything, right?
I have yaqeen now. I have experience. Tawfiq, the ability to take the action. SubhanAllah. That was one of my greatest treasures, one of the biggest treasures.
Well, you know what? That's a pretty big trophy. You know that there.
Listen, I'm a winner. I am a winner in this because I've come out with the Quran as my. I'm excited about life. Abdul Shahid, I'm excited. I'm excited about the journey of life.
Well, listen.
Armed with the Quran, the Sunnah, and my Lord as my guide. I'm excited about that. And
well, look, the thing is, that excitement, look, you see, the thing is, it's great to be excited. Listen, folk, everyone listening here, excitement is a great thing, right? But it's not enough. Like, I'm going to take you a step back, because what you said is that, to be able to do the actions, the ability, right? Now, the excitement, that's just that's the byproduct of your part of, part of the journey you're in. But the reality is that if you want to keep up that excitement, you have to be someone who takes action in your life. No action, no results. That's a fact. And this is something that we're taught over and over again in the Quran. Like psychology, one of the biggest problems with psychology is that it's all about your mind and your thinking and your feeling, and no, in Islam that's not the case. In Islam we are holistic. This is why it's the science of the nafs. Is the branch of knowledge about you. And a part of you is that you got to be in movement. If you're not in motion, you're not creating nothing, you're not moving anywhere. And that's why and really, look, listen, I'm talking to the you listener here. Like Aliyah, she's going through the journey. She knows what she's doing now, and she's moving. And what's really important is you and I. We don't lose the fact that we got to be in motion. We got to be doing, like, just sitting in your feelings all day long isn't going to help you. Sitting in your thinking all day long is certainly not going to help you. But when that thinking and feeling moves you to action, that shapes your life, and that's what the deen is all about. Alhamdulillah. So listen, I'm gonna we as you can tell, Aliyah can talk for England, so can I, right? So we're gonna stop here, because I want you to just take away, like, 'cause she's shared some really, really important gems here, and I want you just to take away some of the things that she shared and understand that, many of you, you might be where she was, and you want to go through that journey of change. Now, journey of change it's not sufficient to have information. Like you heard me say many a times, information does not equal transformation. Like if you've been on any of the programs I'm running, information does not equal transformation. You've got to learn to take that information and live it. When you live it, this is what we call tarbiyah. When you live it, your life changes. You shape your life. And people talk about kismat and destiny and all this stuff. And really, listen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given it to us in our laps. If you take the steps necessary, you can create the life that you want. What do you think about that, Aliyah?
I'm 100% believing and knowing and living that, and excited about experiencing that. I've got it. I'm doing it. I'm watching it change day by day, moment by moment. And Alhamdulillah.
Jazakallah khair. I want to thank you for coming on to the podcast and sharing your experience. And really, look, there's no doubt in my mind that there are going to be thousands of people that can resonate with every word you've said. And may Allah reward us all and help us to achieve what we want to achieve in this life and the akhirah.
Ameen. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair. Hey, if you're ready to actually take the steps to transform your life, I want to invite you to join me on the Nafs Life Transformation Coaching Program, where I help you to take the steps to making the transformation of your mind, your relationships, and your life. Just go over to themuslimlifecoach.org/live. That's the THE muslimlifecoach.org/live.